Hi, Matt Lockett with the Justice House of Prayer in Washington, D.C., and I'm shooting this week's video from a very special place. I've brought our team here in D.C. out to Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, and this is sacred ground for us. This is such an inspiring place to come and pray because of what took place here. And let me just give you a little bit of a brief history lesson. In 1863, the two great forces of the Confederate and Union armies met each other on the field of battle here in Gettysburg. It was a 3-day battle, July 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, but something very significant happened on the second day when a man named Colonel Joshua L. Chamberlain rushed to the position where I'm standing right now. This is a place called Little Round Top, and it was here that he was stationed. He was put in this place by his commanding officer, and he was told, "I place you here. You are the left flank. Do you understand?" And that was a powerful commissioning because being the left flank meant that there was no one else to the left to defend the Union position. There was about 2 miles of a Union line leading to the north, but this is where he was positioned. There was no one else to the left. And what that command meant was that he had to hold this position, and he was not allowed to retreat under any circumstances. If he didn't hold this position, the Confederate Army would be able to sweep over this hill that's in front of me, and they would be able to flank the Union Army. And by all accounts, that would have been the decisive blow. Gettysburg would have been won by the Confederacy, making Washington, D.C. vulnerable, and who knows, but possibly the outcome of the Civil War would have changed because of what happened right here with a handful of men that were given this command: hold the hill against all hazards. Well, I came here years and years ago and with Lou Engle, and he brought us to this very place, and he drew a prophetic parallel between what these men did here and what God was doing with us in Washington, D.C. In the same way that they were placed here with that command, "I place you here," and they were not given the option to retreat, we knew that God had placed us in Washington, D.C. He had placed us on Capitol Hill, but very specifically, he had placed us in front of the Supreme Court. We had to hold that line against all hazards. We had to hold that hill against all hazards. And so this has been an important theme for me to reflect on, because on October 4th, we'll be celebrating our 20th anniversary in Washington, D.C., and that's an important milestone for us. But it's during these days that I'm really taking time to reflect on some of these things that have shaped our assignment, they've shaped us, and how we have walked out this calling. Let me just show you right here behind me over my shoulder. This is a historical marker that reads 20th Maine Infantry, July 2nd, and there's an L. What that means is that this is the left of the left. So we're at the extreme end of the left flank, and this is the left side of the left flank. And so when they took this position right here, this was the place of no compromise. This was the place that if they retreated, no one was going to save them. And I want you to think about your own assignments that God has given you. Where has God placed you and given you the command to hold the ground against all hazards? What is the assignment that he's given you where no matter what happens, even when the tide of the battle turns and it's not going your way, what will you do? For these men that stood here, they fought for about over an hour until they ran out of bullets. Now, what does a soldier do when he runs out of bullets? Conventional wisdom would be that you fall back, that you retreat. And the way we would sort of rationalize that as missionaries and as people of faith is many times when it gets hard or when there are no resources, dare I say, when the money dries up, we oftentimes will retreat, and we'll have 100 reasons why that's a good idea, why we need to do it, why we need to fall back and regroup and regather strength. And then we're going to come back even stronger. We tell ourselves that, when in reality, we are in the fight of our lives. In reality, we are engaged in epic prayer battles where the destiny of the nation is hanging in the balance. And I'm inspired by what these men did here, because they knew that retreat was not an option. And when they ran out of ammunition, they were given the order by their commander, Joshua Chamberlain, bayonets! Maybe you've seen the Gettysburg movie where he gives that epic command. And so when no ammunition is left, they fix bayonets and they charge down off of this hill. And in an epic move on the battlefield, they swept their enemies off the field. I tell you, I'm inspired by that, but I want you to be inspired by that. I want you to feel a commissioning for yourself in that whatever the assignment is, where God says, I place you here, that even when all the resources are gone, even when everyone has left, and maybe, there's been casualties of the war that you're engaged in, that you don't quit, that you don't retreat, that you don't fall back, but you give it all. I believe that these are the kinds of assignments that we're meant to give ourselves to. Our lives are not our own. And can we just be thankful of this, that Jesus came on a mission. And when his Father took him to Calvary, he says, I place you here. And he didn't retreat. In fact, the night before, when maybe there was a fleeting thought of falling back, and he says, if there's any other way, let's do it. No, his resolve and determination was, nevertheless, not my will, but your will be done. And he went to the place of the tree. He went to the cross, and the victory was won for us all. I as much as I just want to be a good intercessor, we need to be like the great intercessor. He is the model. We're not inventing something new. We're just following in his steps. He laid down his life. He didn't retreat. He didn't give up. Even when it looked like all was lost, there was still victory for God, victory in the obedience. And so I wanted to share that with you today as we're approaching our 20th anniversary. I'm inspired by that. I want you to be inspired by that too. And give yourselves to long-term endeavors. Give yourselves to courageous acts of valor and bravery. Give yourself to something bigger than yourself, something bigger than your own calling. Give yourself to the great exploits of the kingdom. All right, God bless you. I'll see you again soon.